actually plays in the overall anarchist movement, but I try my sincere best to transmit beliefs that I've had ever since my late teens, early 20s, through the medium of poetry. Normally, people would would pick up on anarchy through punk rock or, to a lesser extent, heavy metal song lyrics. I use poetry to bring ideas or alternatives to life under capitalism through poetry. And I feel at this point I'm kind of like flapping my gums and not sufficiently answering this question the way I should.
Actually, no, you brought up a couple of very interesting points here, because you're kind of beating against the system, and I feel that even if you don't consider yourself an anarchist, a lot of
do.
You do, but even if you didn't, if it was like someone else who's upset with the system, they can connect with something like that. So you don't necessarily have to be an anarchist to be against the system.
True. There have been many social contributions that have been made, especially in the current Occupy Together movement, that have been made by people who realize that their financial or economic situation here in the United States has become precarious. There are no jobs, even the six-figure jobs don't even offer much job security beyond a certain amount of time anymore. And people are more prone to be laid off in large numbers, thereby adding to the houseless population. And those folks don't have to be anarchists to just realize that this system is against them, and they're not going to provide them with the financial or even existential security that they need, and they ain't going to take it no more. So they join in large numbers to a social movement that makes sense to them. They take the power back into their own hands by building encampments, occupying like college and university buildings, foreclosed houses against the bank and against the sheriff's department and the police, etc.
Does anyone else want to add to this topic here?
I can sympathize with that.
Please.
I think the main thing is to make people think, because if they think, they must reach conclusions, and conclusions are not always pleasant. And by opening the people's minds from system-imposed ignorance, I think that poets have an obligation to do that, to open the people's minds to things and having opinions that they wouldn't normally have because the system has been dumbing them down considerably. So if you make them think, I think that's the main thing. Not really, just open their minds to other alternate conclusions, alternate avenues of thinking about whatever it is out there in a different way.
I will say this though, as a poet and a revolutionary, I feel like poetry is important now more than ever, even though the rest of society may not think so, even though book publishers may not think it's profitable or will not sell any books at all. It's a big way to lose money for a book company or whatever. But if you unite like revolutionary politics with a medium that people who don't have the patience for like the mainstream media's version of the news, in a way, and worded in a way that they could understand, then poetry is important and quite effective.
Thank you. Okay, now we actually have to move on. Can I get a time check real quick?
Like
10 minutes, okay. We're going to make this very quick then. I'm going to go over to Gia here. Thank you very much. So I'd love to get you into this also. So if you could share a poem with us, and thank you.
This is called Distractions. Enough with distractions, it's time for some action. Our world is going nowhere and it's happening so fast, and I'm losing my focus, but I'm trying to stay cool. If the fate of the world were in your hands, then what would you do? This world is like a Where's Waldo book. I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. But instead of Waldo, I'm looking for change. I'm looking for a way to break the chain of apathy. Am I the only one seeing what's happening? I can't be. But as a society, we have a tendency to get caught up in our daily routines. Our lives revolve around 9 to 5s until we look and act like zombies. We get caught up in these distractions. They keep our minds gridlocked like rush hour traffic. And it ain't no accident. So many souls at war, but we can't relate. Too busy to be bothered to even investigate, let alone participate. We're too caught up. Somewhere between CDs, DVDs, MP3s, and HD TV. We get caught up in the cacophony. Somewhere between iPads, iPods, iPhones, and ringtones. Trying to keep up with the Joneses. Or maybe trying to keep up with this capitalistic consumer-based hypnosis. They keep us like gerbils running on a treadmill in circles, as if we're getting somewhere. Meanwhile, the rest of the world's in despair. And yet our lives have become so devoid of meaning that we sit and watch other people live their lives on TV and call it reality. Well, isn't reality TV an oxymoron? My list of paradoxical statements could go on, but I digress. Please forgive me if this message is difficult to digest or process due to its rawness, but in the paper we read about Asian Indians selling their kidneys on the black market just so they'll have food to eat, or Sudanese refugees walking until their feet bleed in order to escape civil war, mutilation, and machetes. We say, gee, that's terrible. Then go back to our online shopping or sip our Starbucks coffee. Enough with distractions, it's time for some action. Our world is going nowhere and it's happening so fast, and I'm losing my focus, but I'm trying to stay cool. If the fate of the world were in your hands, then what would you do? I'm pretty sure I'll never be a household name, so it's a good thing I don't just do this for the fame. I do this to see if there's a way we can be saved and take advantage of the role that my ancestors played. I'm not lecturing to you or talking down to you. I'm a mere reflection of this lesson because I do it too. It's some kind of autopilot that desensitizes, but I've broken away from the hypnosis long enough to bring you this message. Tunisians and Egyptians are fighting and showing resistance. They're marching and burning buildings in the hope that their freedom will rise from the ashes. Why the hell is America being so passive? There are atrocities and crimes being committed in real time. We're distracted from the suffering and the chaos worldwide. A disconnect within the fabric of what we call our own lives. We stay hypnotized and rarely open our own eyes. Like remembering how to make a hand into a fist, we must continue to resist the injustices that continue to exist and persist. So drop the complacency, I insist. For all you know, we could be next.
Wow. How have you seen poetry influence and shape ideas of society as a whole?
I think because we choose to look at society the way it really is, the good, the bad, and the ugly, for better or for worse. And so, I mean, especially if you look at hip-hop, hip-hop did not spring into existence out of nowhere. It came from oral tradition, it came from griots, it came from slaves singing spirituals in the plantation to a rhythmic beat. You know, Shakespeare had iambic pentameter, we had our own pentameter. And so from that, you know, you had jazz, and then you had the marriage of speaking with music behind you, Langston Hughes. My father perpetuated that and added drum beats and stuff to it. The Watts Prophets, the Last Poets, did the same things as well. And then you have hip hop, what has, you know, evolved and become its own subculture, and it very much influences the way society acts, talks, behaves. It's changed the vernacular. It's changed the way people wear their clothes. Something that I am not particularly fond of, the pants, you know, being way below the waistline, as it were. But yeah, sagging off the behind, that's not cute. But you know, it just shows how, you know, pervasive and how influential you know, the offshoots and spin-offs of poetry have been and put their stamp on the country. And, you know, you can have rappers with their own clothing lines and their own perfumes and their own forms of alcohol, you know. So, yeah, it gets into everything and everywhere.
You can't hide with poetry. So
No.
you put it all right up front.
Right, because then you even have, you know, more conscious poets and rappers and hip hop artists and MCs calling out the ones that ain't keeping it real, that aren't speaking the truth, that are, you know, just going with the okie doke or just not really, you know, doing anything to move the culture forward.
So
You know?
you're saying that poetry hasn't really been taken over by the big corporations yet?
They try, but there are still those of us that it can't get to. Like, it's like Hungry Hippo, where it keeps trying to eat up the marbles, and some of us keep getting away. We keep rolling over to the side, and the hippo's trying to get us, and we keep rolling away somewhere else. So, yeah, I mean, it does, you know, because obviously money, capitalism, there are a lot of things that corporations can use to try to lure us in, and, you know, like the devil, you know, asking you to sell your soul, and some of them go for that. Some go ahead and sign that contract. But there are, I feel like, I'm hopeful that there will always be those of us that choose not to go that route, you know, and choose to call out those that do, and keep moving the culture forward instead of allowing it to stagnate or become some kind of, you know, baseless mediocrity that we're just all just sucked into, you know.
Does anyone else have anything to add to that? I saw you shaking your head a lot over there.
Oh, it was great.
Okay. Nice. I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to finish off with asking Horace to read a poem for us. Horace was a last-minute addition to the panel, so thank you for joining us. I know you haven't spoken so much, but if you could add a poem to close us out.
Old church folks used to say, speak the truth and shame the devil. So, in addition to that, I think everything is politics. Because politics, when push comes to shove, is simply interactions between people. So this is a thing called voiding questions in a kind of statement. Is your skin the uniform you're in? Or is gender your state's gender? Or someone else's orders, or the image of your image, your life's borders? Do clouds cover the star you are? It's just like a Bible battle. Many are called, some are chosen, only a few actually do. Some folks' greatest gift to reality will be unconsciously conscious and calmly bound, spending their time breathing the limbo hell of the fumes from their mind, dying with one claim to fame, becoming in due time fertilizer for the next crop in line.
We're going to wrap this up. It's a very short amount of time to be able to get into the depth of this. But I do see a couple of friends here in the audience. I know Matt showed up to be on the panel. Maybe if we have time for Matt to read one poem. And Ross Altman is going to close us out also with a song. And maybe if there's time for Mark Williams to be Ernest, if that's possible. Great, thank you very much. So Matt, Ernest, and then Ross will shut us out with close us out with a song.